All right, welcome back to the channel. I have a very, very special guest with you. I have Mirka on here. I've known Mirka for quite some time. When I first started the Facebook group, I had, I think, 6 people in that group. One was my sister, one was my girlfriend at the time, 2 were random people, and 1 was Mirka. And so I wanted to bring her on to really share her success story, just her recovery experience and her journey so far, just to give you guys some inspiration and really let you guys know that this doesn't have to be a life sentence. So Mirka, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Now, for Mirka's also on my team too. She's been doing such a great job with the free community that I was like, yo, you need to work with me directly. So Mirka, why don't you tell me, how did your anxiety kind of story, your journey start?
Okay, this is actually, I thought it started at one point, but when I look back now and I know how anxiety looked, it actually started way earlier. So I guess it was like 2018, maybe spring or summer. And I was working a lot, like a lot. And I mean every day working for 10, 12 hours, 16 when needed, and no weekends off, no days off, because I needed to hustle back then. I needed it. So I worked and worked and worked. And actually I think it was too much. It was too much. And now I know what I was experiencing back then were actually some symptoms of anxiety, but I didn't have time. This is interesting. I didn't have time to care about what's happening with me. So I didn't fall into it fully. It wasn't that bad because I didn't have a time. So I was experiencing stuff I don't know, breathing issues. When I was falling asleep, I heard, it was a really loud noise, like some people hear voices or stuff like that, random people talking. I heard it was like if you were laying down and train was rolling right onto your head. And it got louder and louder and louder, and I always had to sit in my bed because only when I sit up, it stopped. But I didn't think, I thought I was just overworked, nerves, whatever, and I didn't care. And it took I worked like that for a long time, months, and just about start of 2019, I guess, everything was okay, everything was done, everything calmed down, and that's when it hit me fully, because I finally hit a time, and I was like, okay, this is great, everything is done, everything is perfect. I just got some better jobs, and I finally had time for myself, and went on vacation and stuff like that. And that's when it hit me fully. That's when I had my first full-on panic attack. And I remember it was I was walking my dog, and suddenly I had so much free time. I was still working and everything, but suddenly I have time. And I'm usually people who fall into anxiety cycle are either or they have all of these traits, or some of them. They are usually overthinkers. They're analyzing everything, they are observers and stuff like that. And I observe a lot. And when you have too much free time, you tend to observe yourself. So at the time I was yeah, what was happening with me. And I thought it was from my back as I'm sitting in my computer and stuff like that. And I started observing myself a lot. And one day I was walking the dog, and I had this sudden this scared feeling. I don't know what it was. And I felt hot and I was sweating, and suddenly boom, there was full on panic attack. And I sat down on the sidewalk. I had my dog with me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have my phone with me. And some people just stopped and asked me if I was okay. And I'm like, actually, I think I have a heart attack. I don't know. I think I'm dying. And I meant it. And I was like, could you please call an ambulance or something? So they say they called ambulance. They came to get me, and they were so nice. It was actually close to my home. So I gave them keys. They took my dog. They brought her home. They took my mobile phone and stuff, and just drove me to a hospital. And I remember I got there, they hooked me up to all the machines, you know, the monitor, and it started screaming right away as they put a thing on my finger, started screaming. So the nurse like shut it off to not disturb other patients. And I looked at the monitor, and my blood pressure was, I remember, 190 over 160. And keep in mind, like my normal blood pressure, I always had low blood pressure. So my normal is like 90 over 60. That's my normal, like daily, when like on some bad days when I don't eat enough and stuff like that, I can go even lower. I have like 80 over 50, like doctors were asking, are you even alive? So like seeing my blood pressure that high, I got really, really scared. So they did all the tests and everything. And they said, yeah, it's like, you're okay. Probably you were too hot, you know, like I had like more layers and it was quite warm outside. They were, yeah, maybe, you know, you got really warm and you were breathing a lot and it's like hyperventilation, you know, too much oxygen, you get dizzy and stuff. It's nothing wrong. I'm like, okay. And I went home, and from that point on, it only got like worse and worse and worse. And it was panic attacks. What else? Panic attacks, like muscle cramps, muscle twitches. Like I felt like twitches in my face and everything. There were more, but those symptoms didn't bother me that much, so I didn't like really care. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I didn't know it was anxiety because they told me like it was hyperventilation or something. And nobody said a word like anxiety. Nobody came up with that. So of course I went like Googling, and then I went to doctors, and I got like 3 kgs and stress test. And I wore like a Holter monitor for 2 days straight. And they found nothing. So when they told me, okay, your heart is okay, it's not your heart, I'm like, okay, this has to be something else. So, okay, brain tumor, what else? Like, what else could it be? Oh, of course, brain tumor. So I had like EEG and so many tests. I have like several blood panels and vitamins and minerals check and hormones, everything. They didn't find nothing, but the panic attacks were still coming. So I was like, okay, circle back to the heart. Of course, I read some article. There was someone like really young dying from how do you call it, like when they have the hidden heart, you know what I mean? Yeah,
some sort of heart condition that no one knows about.
Yeah, that's like they're from birth and they just don't. And it was like I was scrolling, I suddenly like to see the article. It was like highlighted in red and jumped up. I was like, okay, this is it. I have some hidden condition, they don't know it, they have to. So I Googled some more and I'm like, okay, EKG doesn't show it. I need to do like ultrasound for the heart. So again, I went back to Dr. Sa. I was asking for an ultrasound. They did it, told me everything is okay. And I still didn't feel okay. Actually, at this point, I had like 5, even 10 panic attacks a day. My whole day was like panic attack, tired, sleeping for an hour, waking up, panic attack, tired, sleeping for an hour. That was my day basically. Nothing else. I had a bunch of other symptoms, but they didn't bother me as much, so I didn't care about them. And so I got to my doctor and I was like, I want another ultrasound with a different doctor. So she was like, I could tell she was sick of me, but she did it. She sent me there, and this doctor actually, again, you are okay, nothing is. And I started to tell her everything is happening with me, and she was like, oh, this sounds like anxiety. And she was first. I went to so many doctors telling them what's happening with me, and she was the first doctor that was like, oh, this sounds like anxiety. I'm like, okay, now we are getting somewhere. I didn't care. It's not, I was happy it's not physical. I'm not like, you know, sometimes people, they want to hear that there is a problem. I was happy. I was happy to hear there is something. I didn't care what something. Okay. So I started like looking for therapists. First, I went to psychiatrists who were offer antidepressants, and I didn't want to go that route. So I was like, no, I'm trying to find some therapist. I tried 2 online. One of those, actually, she had really good reviews and stuff like that. And when I told her what's happening, she was like, yeah, you can't ever get out of this. This is like, you will have this forever. And I'm like, therapist told me this, like psychologist, like a doctor. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, yeah, antidepressants and CBT, and you can like manage it, you know, you can cope, and that's like all I can do for you. I'm like, okay, I will try to look for someone else. And I found one like right in our hospital, like 5 minutes away from me. And she was for free also. Like, I'm in Czech Republic, so she was for free. And I'm like, okay, I'll go there. And this one was like the best, but it was part of like CBT and a lot of coping, a lot. So I actually managed to get my panic attacks, and this was really like months into it. I was so tired, but I managed to get my panic attacks like into having like one a day, one every 2 days. But it was a lot of coping, like, you know, like repeating these mantras and like exercising when panic attacks came, like moving, or like, I don't know, cold water on my wrist and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is all good, this is great, but do I want to do this like forever? Like, you know, only coping and coping and coping. What if I'm like, I don't know, sitting on a plane, you know, how am I going to go do squats and stuff like that? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't like this. Like, there must be some other way. So I went back to Googling again, which wasn't such a good idea, because I worked myself up back to 5 or 10 panic attacks a day. And I'm like, well, this is not working. This is bad. And I stopped going to therapy. And one day I decided, okay, this is too much. I got myself back where I was before. This is not working. And I'm actually going to stop reading. I'm going to stop Googling. And more importantly, I was like, I'm leaving all anxiety groups I'm following on Facebook. I'm just going away. I'm just cutting myself off. So I went to one group, and I was just about to click, like, you know, the unfollow button to leave the group. And there was your post. It was like 2 minutes old, like freshly posted. And it was like, admin allowed this, you know, this is linked to my new Facebook group. Like, I got out of this. And if you want to know how I did it, like, just join. And I'm like, okay, I'm really tired. I don't know what to do anymore. Let's give this guy a chance and actually see what he's about. So I get into a group, like you said, like the first 5 people maybe.
Yeah.
And I clicked on, like, I read the first post, and it was like video link to your YouTube. And I went to your YouTube, and you had like maybe 10 videos back then, like 10, 12, something like that. Like not as much as you have now. And I just binge watched them all. And then I binge watched them again. And then I did it again. And I'm like, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. This is something that could work. So I was like, okay, you are going to trust this random guy from the internet, and let's see if it helps. So that's the beginning. And basically I said most of it, but yeah, that was the beginning.
That's amazing though. 'Cause yeah, when I met you, those videos really did help you, which is awesome, which is great, because it seemed like you really kind of understood very quickly from the videos. Sometimes people need a little bit of extra help. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, you're obviously in the mentorship guiding, but you were able to really pick that up. Really, what was it that really helped you kind of like understand, like, oh, okay, this makes sense? Like, what part of it did like really made sense to you that kind of helped?
Honestly, everything you were saying. And I promised myself, because as I said, I'm an overthinker. I analyze everything. I Google all the time. I knew with this isn't good. I knew I cannot do that. So I promised myself, I like told myself, like, you are going to do everything this guy says, and you won't Google, and you won't look elsewhere, and just do it. So honestly, I didn't even buy Claire Week's book, even though you recommended it. Mm-hmm. Up until that point, I started helping out with your free group. I didn't even have your free report downloaded. I didn't do it. I just watched the videos over and over and over. There weren't that many, so it was like easy to watch them all over again. And I was like, okay, you won't Google, you won't go looking elsewhere, because I know myself. And when I have too much information, I will start overthink and I will get lost. So I'm like, the less you know, the better. So yeah, that's what I did. And because I was like from the first people that were there, you were actually messaging me. I didn't go through your mentorship. Obviously, I didn't pay for your program, but because I think it was because I was lucky and I was like one of the first people there. You were messaging me. So the little mistakes I did, some of the questions I had, like you responded. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's how I was able to pick it up so quickly. I didn't look elsewhere. I just promised myself I won't do it. And if I want to know something, I was like, okay, you will have time after. And I think that's what helped me like the most. Like I was like, okay, whatever you are doing up to this point, it didn't work. Like stop looking for fixes, stop looking for more information. Everything you need is here, and that's where you're going, to do. And I did that.
How was your recovery stage? Like, how did your recovery look like?
Well, basically, I got out of the worst pretty fast. Just with your videos, just, it was hard to start accepting.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard. And I remember, like, sometimes I was just, you ask me how I feel and how's it going, and I message you something, I'm doing this and doing that, and you were like, okay, this is great, but don't do this. And I'm like, what does he know? And then I was like, yeah, probably, he probably knows. So I'm like, okay. So whenever you said, don't do this, I was like, okay, I won't. So I got out of the worst. That was pretty fast. It was like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. And I was back into like one panic attack a day, one every 2 days. That was like really, really fast. And as I said, like I had a bunch of other symptoms, but I didn't care about them because panic attacks for me, that was the worst. And after I got from the worst stage, then it started like being long months of just, being quite okay. A little bit of the, the heaviness and stuff like that, but being quite okay and getting setbacks. But yeah, that took a long time, but I was quite convinced I will get out of this. I trusted you. This was really like blind trust. And when I had bad day and I just, I lost the hope a little bit. I think people have to go through a few aha moments during the recovery. And when I had really bad days and I lost hope, one time I had this aha moment because my biggest problem was health anxiety and panic attacks, and the fear that I will drop that right here on the spot right now. And I'm like, what is the point to be, scared of dying so much? I can't even live. Like, what kind of life this is like anyway? Why am I so afraid to die? Like, what am I going to lose? Like sitting at home, shaking, like that's not life. So I was like, okay. So I was switching between the two mindsets. Like first one was like being really hopeful and trusting that I can do this. You did it. I can do it too. And when I had a bad days, the second one was, okay, if I'm supposed to have this forever, I might as well just go out and live. Because like, otherwise, what am I fighting for? So those were my two mindsets. They were just changing basically based on my mood.
Yeah. Again, it's so impressive though, because like, I still get very impressed by like how quickly you came out and people came out, like just a few videos and it's like snap out. And because I would tell you, I think I would have been I would have been a huge pain. I was very slow. I didn't really get it. It didn't click, but I feel like it really clicked with you very quickly. And I saw you come out very quick. I saw you come out very fast. And so what would you tell somebody that's like, because look, you're also in the mentorship now. Now you're like helping me help people. Yeah. What are some of the most, let's say this, what are some of the most common things you see that people kind of get tripped up by?
Okay. First thing is what I said was, for some it's good, but for some, like some people, they know what they should do. They saw your videos. When they are in the program, they have like all the information that are like really great. Your program actually is perfect now that I can look into it. I know it's,
now that you're in it.
Yeah, now that I have the access, and they have all the information, and then they have videos, and they have your help, and coaches help like Kylie, Caesar. They have all these, like they have everything they need, and they are still sometimes they are still looking for other things. I'm not saying they are Googling or Dr. Googling, but they are still like, you know, trying to find more information. And I think for some people, this is not helping. Even though they might be good information, there's too much. There's too much. I think good is like find one thing and stick with it. You know, don't try to bring things from other sources, no matter how good they might be. That's the first thing. Second thing is like people tend to sabotage themselves. I think, you know, sometimes I see, oh, okay, when I had some setbacks and when the stage with symptom changes came for me, I suddenly like I got out of panic attacks and everything was kind of like calming down, and I get like this symptom shift that's normal. And with me, it was my vision, it was vision changes, and I had derealization for like 2-3 weeks. For me, it was like a vacation. I know some people are really scared of it. For me, after those months of like constant panic attacks, this was like a vacation. Man, I loved it. I loved my derealization. And what scared me?
Some people are actually like Shaan, like physical symptoms is one thing, but DPDR is so much, and it's so interesting, right? How everybody
that's what I'm getting at it. Don't worry, I'm getting at it. What really scared me was I need my hands to work. I need my fingers, you know, I type all the time. So with my symptom changes, my biggest setback was when I lost feeling in like these 3 fingers. I didn't feel them like at all. I could move them. They were working, but I didn't feel them. And typing was hard. And I think it happened because that was the thing I was scared the most. Because when I had like the muscle twitches, you know, and the pins and needles and stuff, I was always saying like, it's okay when it's my legs, I don't mind. I just want my hands to be okay because I need them to work. And that's why I think this happened. That's it. So when some people say, oh, like I have DPDR, they have panic attacks, that's so easy. If I had panic attacks, that would be so easy to overcome. Or like, oh, you know, they have DPDR, but you know, I have this like stomach issues and that's so much harder to overcome. No, like the fact is with anxiety symptoms, it's like, do you know like how every mother thinks their kid is the most beautiful, their kid is the most beautiful and the smartest kid in the world? And then you look at the kid and you see this, I don't know, this little little crotch goblin with ears that are way too big and it's sitting on the playground eating dirt. Like so yeah, this maybe, I don't know. It's the same with anxiety. Like those people are like moms to their anxiety and they think their anxiety is the worst. And it is, because it's worse for them. So like, for me, the personalization was a blast. I enjoyed it, but I understand that someone who's like one of the main symptoms is the personalization, the realization is the worst for them. That's why they have this symptom. If they were scared more of something else, they would have something else. That's how it works. I think people tend to, you know, look too much for people that have same symptoms because it might help them. It really doesn't matter what symptoms you have, because you will have those symptoms you are afraid the most. So whatever symptom you have, it's the worst for you. And there's no point comparing. And I think that's, some people have this problem, like they have it easier and mine is worse. No, like it's fucked up for all of us.
It's okay. So, by the way, how fast did your DPDR go away?
I had only for like 3 weeks, and then it went away. And the hand that was my biggest. When I stopped feeling the fingers, that was the worst. That was like I had setbacks when I was okay for a month, and then I had a day when I had like 5 panic attacks in a row. This with my hand, that was worse. When I stopped feeling my fingers, that was like my worst setback for me, because panic attacks no longer scared me. So when they came back, I was like, I got scared, you know, because I didn't have them for so long, but it was okay. I knew that. But when fingers, wow, that was really, really bad. Also, actually, another thing during my recovery, when I was getting out of the worst, I noticed, you told me, you messaged me that I noticed that I'm still really, really good, because from the therapist before, I was still really, really good with like a bit of coping here and there. I had my crutches, and one of my crutch was my boyfriend, because whenever I felt like really bad, I had panic attack, my instinct was, you know, reach for the phone and call him, just to hear him. Just if, you know, if I was really dying, he could call for some help. Because before, I was always like happy to be alone. I wanted to be alone. I liked my alone time, not lonely and not all the time, but I like my alone time, you know. I like my personal space. And when I got into the point when I had so many panic attacks all the time, I actually start inviting people over, even people I don't like that much, just for someone to be with me like all times. And pretty soon the people figure out why I'm inviting them over, because I invited them and I didn't even want to talk to them. I just put on some movie and I was like, you know, shaking and feeling terrible, but I was happy somebody is there. If I really like drop down, they can help me. And when they actually understood why I'm calling them, they stopped coming, because like it was boring. Like I wasn't there, you know, to talk or something like that. It wasn't fun with me. So I started calling my boyfriend all the time, which was also weird, because normally I don't do that. Like we see each other every day, every other day. So we can talk when he's here. So I'm not calling, we're not messaging that much, nothing like that, because I'm busy, he's busy. So it was weird, you know, when I started calling. And when you told me like I'm doing this, like you know, beware, don't use like crutches, like be mindful of that. I was like, okay, and I said to my boyfriend, okay, you are not allowed to pick my calls. You are not allowed to take my calls until I tell you, don't pick up a phone when I'm calling you. And like for a person that cannot like bring 3 things from the shop, when I asked him, he like picked up on this like pretty fast. So he was pretty consistent with this. And then I noticed, you know, I'm like being really smart with that. Like I knew he won't pick up the call. So I messaged him like, please pick up the phone. I'm going to call you because I need like something really, really important. And he's like, okay, so what is so important? You can message me that. I'm like, oh, I wanted to ask, what do you want for dinner tomorrow? You know, like just trying to get him to pick up the phone. But luckily he didn't budge. He didn't, you know, I could try whatever, but no. He was pretty consistent with this, and that also helped me a lot. Like I think people, it's hard for them to let go of their crutches, and I get it, because it's scary. So that's why I really went and told him, don't do this, don't pick up my calls, don't help me, because if I know you will do it, I will use it. So I was like, don't. I had like, you know, how do you call it? To measure blood pressure at home. I gave it to him and I was like, take it away from me. I cannot have it here. It cannot be here, because otherwise I will check my blood pressure multiple times a day. Take it away. So I did steps to, you know, prevent myself from using crutches as much as I could.
That's wild. That is story, yeah, it's all kind of coming back. I remember these now.
For me, failure wasn't an option. I just said, you won't do this, and that's it.
I find that to be the most important part of recovery. Just making that you're gonna get out.
And I just remembered something, like maybe you figured it out. I'm like kind of like, I'm the type, like I like to do things right. When I do something, I want to do it right. I was even in school, I was a bit of a teacher's pet. You know, I was always trying too hard and and stuff like that. So I was like, you were messaging me, okay, how are you? And you were, you know, correcting me and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, now I will do everything perfectly. I will get out of this. And then I will message Shaan, and I will be like, okay, I get out. Like, look at me, you know, I'm so good at this. And I got to a point when I was pretty okay. I didn't have like, I could go out alone, which was like, being alone at the time was a really big problem for me. I could go out alone and I was actually enjoying myself, but I still wasn't quite there. And I couldn't find like triggers, because everything I was doing was, you know, so familiar, and my responses were correct, and I didn't have too many triggers. I thought I have none. But then whenever you messaged me, actually my anxiety shot up, because I wanted to wait until I'm out, you know, to tell you, to brag about it. So whenever you messaged and I still felt I'm not out, I was anxious, because I was, no, don't message me now, because I'm not out yet. You know, it was like this. So you actually became my trigger. Yes. And you know me, like before, when I was recovering, like when you used Instagram, you couldn't write messages from your computer, only from your phone. So all the people I had on Instagram, all my friends, nobody messaged me on Instagram, because they knew I hate typing messages on touchscreen. So you were the only one who was messaging your Instagram. So I was like, you know, relaxing, you know, because the time difference, I usually was like, you know, lying in a bathtub, like bubble bath and reading a book. And I was so, everything was okay. And I heard the message tone for Instagram. And I knew it was you. So even before I looked at the phone, my anxiety shot up so high, and I started having palpitations and heart beating. So you became my trigger at that point. Like towards the end of my recovery, you were my only trigger, because you were messaging and you were asking, and I wasn't able to tell you I'm okay now. And that made me anxious.
So then what happened?
So you were my last trigger.
How'd you get over that trigger?
I don't know. I think like when you just message enough times, I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah. How are you doing now?
Like, I think I'm normal. No, actually, I am doing better now, because like pre-anxiety me, I would cancel on you today, because I hate my spoken English. You know, I have trouble with that. I don't like how it's not good enough for me, for my standards. So pre-anxiety me will be nervous for like 3 days in a row, knowing we are supposed to be talking, and I would cancel on you last minute. I would really do that. And now I don't have this problem anymore, because I actually, the recovery helped me realize so many things I use in my daily life. And I think this is also good for people, because as I said, usually people who fall into a cycle, when I ask around, when I observe the people, you know, we are working with, and even in the free group, those are the same types of people. Overthinkers, overanalyzers, people that, you know, take everything, the stress weighs on them like too heavy. They were always, even as the kids, more anxious than their friends. Those same types of people. And I think that anxiety and the recovery made me realize, like with thoughts and stuff like that, it made me realize I don't have to listen to my thoughts. Not all of them. I don't have to engage. Pre-anxiety, like whenever I had some sad or tragic, you know, scary thought, I thought I have to listen and I have to engage, you know, like my brain was like, oh, welcome to my TED Talk, you know, let's talk about like you are no good and why nobody likes you. And I don't know if that mole on your cheek was always this big, or if you are dying from cancer. And I always thought I have to listen to those thoughts, and I have to engage, and I have to think about this stuff, but I don't. I don't have to react. It's my decision if I will or if I won't react. And that's actually that's a lesson learned for people like me, for people who fall into anxiety cycle, who like think about everything too much, and they are always stressed more than others. I think this is the best lesson anxiety can give them, because they learn that problems are not as big as they seem. And you can always take a step back, you know, calm down, and then solve the problem. You don't have, you know, make tragedy out of everything. And that's what I did before, and I'm not doing it now anymore. Like I'm way more level-headed and way more calm. And, you know, when people ask me from groups, like if, you know, if I could turn back time and avoid this and never have to go through anxiety cycle, if I do that, I'm telling them no, like I would do it all over again. No problem, because it gave me so much. It gave me much more than it took away from me.
So that's the interesting part, right? Because like none of the symptoms are there anymore. You're not struggling with panic attacks or anything like that, but you've
No.
gotten a deeper understanding. That's what I always feel. I always feel like anxiety, you become like, everyone wants to be back to their old self. And it's like you are, but you're also like a better version too. Like there's certain elements of you you've learned. It's like you've
Yeah.
you know?
And the people, they are like, so many of them are afraid that they won't be the old self. I am still me. I am still like overthinker, overanalyzer. I'm all that I was before, just my reaction changed. You know, not my nature, not my personal traits. That's all the same. My reaction changed.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I didn't change as a person, just the way I'm reacting to myself. That's what's different.
Exactly. It's still you. It's still the same person.
Yeah.
Even when you were struggling with anxiety, even at the lowest, it's still you. It's just, you know, you go back to your old self. You just, old layers of you just naturally come back, but then you're kind of
Yeah.
like wiser, just more like, I don't know, you're just a stronger person too. It's just a stronger version. It's like Mirka.
Definitely.
I felt the same way. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Mirka, I mean, this was great. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah.
What is one last thing you would tell somebody really struggling at this point, feeling like they're the only person that's going through this right now, that, you know, maybe this won't work for them? What would you tell them?
I know it sounds like really cliche, and you know, like everyone gets this, like they have to go through few aha moments, because like when they are really struggling and they are like in the deepest of it all, like you can tell them anything and it's hard to listen. Not they don't want to listen, but it's really, really hard. But like, you know what I would tell them? Just try, because so many of them, they are like giving up before they even started. They are giving up before they even tried. They're just, yeah, I can't do it, this is too much, I won't be able to, like, I'm, you know, the exception, it won't work for me. Just try it for a week, try it for 2 weeks, and I guarantee you, like, if they try for 2 weeks, they will see at least some change, at least some effect. And for me, when I saw the first, like, even, you know, even the little glimpse of hope, like this is actually doing something, that's when I like trusted you and whatever you said, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing this because this is like doing something. I wasn't like, you know, okay, like I started accepting it, everything was perfect. No, but I saw change. So, you know, I would tell those people, like, just try. You know, why do you why do you, you know, cut your own branch underneath you? Just try it.
I'm very impressed by your recovery journey. To me, like my end was, you came out of it so fast, so I feel like I didn't really do anything.
Good. Because you did the work like before, so
yeah.
you know, you did the
you
work.
listen, you listen. Sometimes it's like the compliance is an issue naturally because they're so used to resisting that telling them to stop, they can't do it. But you identified it, you know, pretty quickly, which is great. It's a lot of self-awareness. So it's good.
I mean, as I said, I know me, and I knew what I have to like really tell myself to do and to not do. I can follow instructions if I want to. So like the want had to be there. I had to want it. That's it.
That's it. And for those of you that really want to be part of the community that's really like Mirka's in, that I'm in, other people that have made recovery stories, I'll put a link down to that Facebook group that I was talking about. It's gotten a little bit bigger, but even more value than ever before. And even
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit bigger. But I would say even more value, even more success stories. And I always say the best way out is, you know, just somebody taking you by the hand and taking you to recovery. So if you want to be part of the mentorship, have me, Mirka, Kaylee, Caesar, all these amazing individuals take you by the hand, take you to recovery ourselves, just get you out of this. We can put a link down below for an application. You fill out the application. If you're a good fit, we'll have a strategy session with you. See if you're a good fit. And if you are, I'll personally take you under my wing. Mirka will be there and we'll guide you to recovery. And so thanks for watching, guys.